New tonight, homeless advocates in Greenville are working to bridge the gaps and opportunities for people experiencing homelessness.
Fox Carolina's Kennedy Harris shows us how inequalities in the criminal justice system impact homelessness and what two upstate cities are doing to help.
Life on the streets can be a revolving door, sometimes a cycle in and out of the courtroom.
Misdemeanor or criminal background on your record can be an impediment to both employment and safe and stable housing.
Susan McLarty is the coordinator for the Greenville Homeless Alliance. Along with other obstacles keeping people on the streets, they noticed misdemeanor charges were setbacks too.
And we're talking about people who may have 4 pages of misdemeanor charges. Those can all be removed.
Homeless court is what they call it, and they're trying to implement it in Greenville. The program would give some people the opportunity to have misdemeanors expunged.
So oftentimes we were punishing them and then not really providing a path towards restoration, and that's what homeless court does. It provides a second chance.
The city of Spartanburg put the program in place in 2019.
And they don't hold the court sessions here. Instead, they're held at the Spartanburg Opportunity Center, a place that's more accessible for people experiencing homelessness.
It really became extremely frustrating not to be able to offer them anything other than punishment. If these individuals were in fact guilty of committing crimes, and oftentimes these crimes were related or impacted by the fact that they were homeless.
Crimes like shoplifting, trespassing, and disorderly conduct are the most common. The court provides qualifying people with an attorney to identify the root of their issues, and in 6 to 9 months, charges can be erased.
You see their lives change, their confidence, their self-esteem. It's been amazing really to see the turnaround. Individuals who were not employed begin to find employment. Individuals who were living in instability now being placed in stable housing.
Kennedy Harris, Fox Carolina News.
Well, only certain charges can be erased and certain people can participate in the program. Spartanburg's helped 20 people since that program started. Greenville is still in the early stages of establishing the program, but they hope to have it active by the end of next year.